every complex business system has to be seen as a chain, and at a point in time we need to identify the weakest link out of that. I was working very closely with the business head of tea lounges, wherein we went store by store and we identified the weakest link was in terms of the F&B mix in certain number of stores. Those stores which, because of their geographical location, had a different kind of a TG who was stepping in, and hence there was sort of a misalignment in terms of the F&B offering vis-a-vis the TG which it was catering to. Hence, that weak link, once we sorted for, it paved the way for improving the profitability by at least 100 basis points for the lounges business and ultimately the overall profitability. This is going to define the ongoing continual improvement journey for any business and make sure that the business is in a good shape, in a steady shape to achieve its objective. Hi, I'm Abhishek Kapoor. I'm CFO with Sula Vineyards. Today I'm going to be talking about leading with resilience, a CFO's playbook for tough times. But before that, first about me. I have been fascinated by the stories behind the numbers. It's not only the numbers, what's the outcome, what matters is basically the sweat and the efforts of the numerous number of teams which goes behind that, and the strategy which finally leads to the kind of results what we see in terms of the dashboards, the numbers. My journey with finance, it all started with my fascination and the stories which I read about the 1991 event of liberalization. The whole economy opened up, business models which were operating through ages, they had to redesign. The industries opened, the businesses transformed, and new strategies emerged. There were the different life cycles the businesses were going through. It was very important for them because of that major change event to undergo a change with respect to the strategy. Now, reading about those stories kind of inspired me and aroused that curiosity in me that how this valuations they work, how the businesses create value for all its stakeholder ecosystem, internal as well as external. Something which started as a curiosity became a purpose to create value, be a leader, be an instrumental leader, I would say, in terms of creating that journey of value creation for multiple businesses that I get associated to. Now, with 25 years of experience, this journey to create value has been carried on. I have worked with multiple businesses, the businesses which have been in different stages of evolution, and which have gone through different phases of their respective product life cycles, the different strategies with respect to their organic and inorganic expansion. And my role was basically to act with the business leaders and provide that path and the solution whenever the business situations required, and be more proactive in terms of leading the path, providing a framework, what's the solution to those tough situations which the businesses encountered. Now we are talking about the tough situations, they encompass whether it's a slow revenue growth, or it is about a weakening profitability, or if we talk about the external economic environment becoming tough, whether it's on the regulatory side or any geopolitical challenges, etc. It's very important that the solution in all such tough situations, they need to be identified without getting panicked, and keep the chin up and make sure the teams are rallying around you when you are identifying a solution and trying to drive the execution of those ideas. I'll narrate a couple of examples from my experience wherein the kind of playbook I used for coping with those challenges, which I'm sure will be pretty useful for many situations. Early on in my career, I was introduced to the concept of theory of constraint. That was a theory coined by Dr. Goldratt way back in 1984. He wrote a book which was known as The Goal, and this was all about the process of ongoing improvements. Now, I drew a great many lessons from that every challenge or every complex business system has to be seen as a chain, and at a point in time we need to identify the weakest link out of that. You solve for the weakest link, improvise the system, and then move on to your journey of identifying the next weak link, and so on and so forth. This is going to define the ongoing continual improvement journey for any business, and make sure that the business is in a good shape, in a steady shape to achieve its objective. Now, at any given point in time, if we were to look at the whole chain, it is going to be having the symptoms of multiple issues. But if we focus on only on one constraint at a time, it will also simplify the overall prospect of that issue, the biggest issue being solved for, and then paving the way for other issues to be taken one at a time. Subordinate all other constraints at that point in time to that one and focus on this. I believe this is a CFO mindset, which is breaking down the larger mammoth magnitude of a problem and look at what are the respective components of that. This helps in terms of keeping the focus. Each one has his own framework to kind of achieve that. The one which I have followed is the theory of constraint. Others may follow some other frameworks. Now, those examples which I was talking about, I in my previous assignment with a FMCG, which was in the tea beverage space, the Wagh Bakri group, was facing a challenge of slowing the profit earning capability, which is the profit margins were kind of shrinking. Now, as tea as a beverage is known as slightly orthodox and has not that cool factor which is associated with the coffee, as more and more cafes are opening up. So the group had decided that we need to reach closer to the consumer base and set up our own tea lounges. Now, what was happening that these tea lounges, because of its weak economics, some of the units were not performing up to the mark what was planned in the overall business plan, and it was having an impact on the overall profitability of the organization, for which the mainstream business was selling the packeted tea. Now, here came my approach of applying the theory of the application of the principles of TOC, the theory of constraint, and I was working very closely with the business head of tea lounges, wherein we went store by store and we identified the weakest link was in terms of the F&B mix in certain number of stores. Those stores which, because of their geographical location, had a different kind of a TG who was stepping in, and hence there was sort of a misalignment in terms of the F&B offering vis-a-vis the TG which it was catering to. Hence, that weak link, once we sorted for, it paved the way for improving the profitability by at least 100 basis points for the lounges business, and ultimately the overall profitability. We moved on to the next issue, which is with respect to the specific location of lounges, and solved for the second big constraint. That basically gave us a framework in terms of looking at the progressive way of solving this challenge and ultimately achieving our objective of improving the profitability. The second example which I'll quote is from my current assignment here. It's a long value chain which is farm to table, which is for Sula Vineyards. Now, it's a very complex equation given it's the alcobev industry, and there the challenge was with respect to upgrading our SAP platform from ECC 6 to S4HANA. Now, the bigger challenge was that this was to be completed before the onset of the key selling season, the key festive season, and which was the pressing need, because post that the businesses would be busy in terms of delivering the numbers, the targeted numbers, and hence it was essential that we had to rally all the teams around and make sure that this is getting delivered with the constraint in hand. Again, the application of TOC, which was identifying what was the weakest link. Here we identified that the data entry operators across the value chain, that is going to be the main weak link, because it's those bunch of people who are going to get impacted by this change management, and hence they were the main audience with respect to the change management to be driven, and the identification as a weak link of theirs helped in terms of putting our entire efforts in solving that, and which is where we created a shared services team by bunching all of them together. So all data entry across the value chain was centralized before we embarked on our journey of this SAP upgrade. So solving for this weak link ensured that we were able to completely implement this upgraded platform, and at the same time offering a sustainable solve with respect to larger productivity, which earlier was amiss. Now, I would say that TOC has been a handy guide for me. It has ensured that I have been resilient in my journey in situations where the business has sort of needed a more proactive approach, a framework approach. With this, I believe this is my sharing of example is going to be useful. Thank you so much.